Hi, everyone. Welcome to PBA at Noon webinars. Thank you so much for logging in and checking out this story that we're going to give you today. With us today is Andre Laurent from Diagnos. Diagnos is an artificial intelligence company that's been doing work in screening people's eyes to detect diabetes and heart issues. So, Andre, if you're ready, you can go ahead, please. Thank you.
My name is Andre. I'm the CEO of Diagnos. So Diagnos is really redefining digital healthcare by using artificial intelligence. And our first application that we have built over the last 7 years is an application that looks inside your eye and to identify any types of pathology we have. So we built a bunch of algorithms to do early detection of vascular changes in the retina. What that means is that if you are a diabetic or you have cardiovascular issues, one of the first places that we can recognize some of these pathology is in your eye, because in your eye, we can see two types of vasculars. We can see arteries and we can see veins. So if you can see arteries and veins with a very, very low cost test, then we can actually look at any type of diseases that you have inside your body. So the unmet need is really accessibility of a low cost test to monitor the clinical outcomes for diabetics in other diseases such as vascular diseases. So hypertension, stroke, heart attack, we will be actually offering solutions in those additional area by using the same image that we take from the beginning. So when you go to healthcare, we need to have regulatory approvals. So Diagnos is an ISO certified company. We have Health Canada. We have just passed the new US FDA in Health Canada clearance. We are HIPAA compliant in the US, CE mark, and we have additional regulatory approvals in other countries such as Mexico and Saudi that we just received not too long ago. So when we say this is more than a concept, so we're using artificial intelligence for the last 5 years in the field, where we actually went out and we couldn't have the data that we wanted. So we went out and we actually built the data. And we did this in about 16 countries, over 100 clinics. And we did about approximately 400,000 patients that we now have in our database today. So the technology now has been proven, and we are now in production since mid-January. Additionally to that, we actually replied to a call to help from the White House in the US. So this call to action was really, they are looking for technology that can actually read over 50,000 documents and see if we can identify any key documents or extract knowledge from all those thousands of documents against the attack on the COVID-19. One of the first things that we now have, we've read half of those documents today, and we can actually see some of the treatment that is used in the past with the coronavirus. When it's used in conjunction with chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, or other types of medication, there's an impact on the retina. So we will be actually adding a new test to our platform that will be integrated with our existing solution for diabetics and also for hypertensive patients that will monitor some of these factors that we have identified through these documents. The clinical solutions that we have today, we are now in production for retinopathy. So retinopathy is any disease on the retina, and the retina is really the membrane in the back of your eye. We are working aggressively to have our second application for monitoring patients that are hypertensive in the next few months. We're also working on AMD, glaucoma. We have a very big program on identifying stroke patients. So this is being able to predict that a patient will have a stroke within the next 18 to 24 months. And the last one, a little bit long term, is really identifying a patient that will have a heart attack. So the way this works, it's a very simple process. So patient shows up, he's a diabetic or has cardiovascular issues. There's a camera that costs about maybe $15,000. And there's an operator that takes the picture of the patient. That picture is sent over the internet through the cloud to our servers, and we actually do a few things to it. So first thing is we actually increase the quality of the image, and then we actually look inside the retina to see and identify the different pathologies. All of this is all glued together, if you want, by a telemedicine platform that integrates everybody together. So a patient can be in Montreal, and the specialist could be in Quebec City, and nobody moves around until the doctor, the specialist, decides that he wants to see the patient. So I believe, and I think the whole market believes that with this COVID-19 experience, telemedicine will become a very key factor in the future in terms of identifying and working with patients. We can deploy in several manners. So the deployment means the solution to our clients. So we can actually do a software-only environment. We can do a standalone, a managed environment. We also have a mobile environment. The key thing to recognize here is that the margins are very, very good in all the models that we deploy. It's very fast. It used to take us 2 minutes to analyze a picture of one eye, and today we have reduced it to about 2 seconds. So within 4 seconds, the two eyes have been diagnosed, and also we package this in a report that goes out to the patient and the doctors, and it takes all about 15, 20 seconds. So by being able to reduce that, we have increased our margin on our transaction. In a best world, we like the one that is a standalone or a software only because the margins are higher, but you can see that from yourself. In terms of market statistics, we currently have about 61 million shares. We have very little debt, and our market cap is fairly low for now. Insiders and family offices that are very close to us, together we own about 50% of the stock. And currently we trade around 19-20 cents. These markets that we're going after, the diabetic retinopathy market is very, very large in terms of market. The neat thing here is that there's no cure for diabetes, and there's no cure in sight for diabetes. So every diabetic patient that we actually screen, they become a patient for life. So it's kind of a recurring revenue model. Patient comes in 1 year, he'll come back the year after, and the year after, and the year after. We have the same kind of approach with the cardiovascular issues. So if a patient is hypertensive, then we will be able to monitor him on a yearly basis. So this test becomes a recurring revenue also for us. So these two markets are extremely large, and there's room for a lot of growth. So our existing clients today are the following. So we have the Quebec government, Novartis. 2020 Now is a U.S. organization in the eye care world. Chaparral Group is a fairly large group of clinics in California, and we are starting to sign up governments around the world. In terms of active prospects, you can see the list there. We have a lot of governments that we've been working with. New Look is interesting because New Look, we are actually doing a strategic alliance with them where we be installed in about 400 locations across Canada in monitoring patients. So this is a very, very large prospects for us. Same thing with the other ones there. So in terms of presentation, I'm here to take questions. If you have any questions, feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, André. We actually do have one question. We have a couple, but one was, how do you qualify, or how did you qualify for that US testing, that call to action? Is there a qualification? Is there something that you have to go through to start doing that?
Well, the call to action was sent to companies that are in the AI or identified as AI companies. And it was really on a goodwill basis. So we received an email from them, and we didn't have to do it, but we did it for two reasons. One is we wanted to see what's inside of those 50,000 documents and see if we can actually find some information that the US government's looking for. It's also good for Diagnos because now we know that certain medications are impacting the health of our clients, and we can actually trace it back to the retina. Those are two reasons.
Excellent. Sorry, there was another question regarding cash position.
So we have cash on hand. We just finished a financing just prior to COVID, and we have approximately $1.7 million in the bank today.
Excellent. Oh, here we go. Is this product covered by Medicare?
Yes, in the US, there's a lot of billing codes for what we do, but the billing codes are really for the doctors and the specialists. So we actually help the doctors and the specialists make sure they can comply with the Medicaid and Medicare requirements on a billing code, I guess, on the administration side.
Excellent. What are your sales now and projections, if you can?
Well, we're at a running rate of $500,000. We went in production only in mid-January with our latest release. So we were running there at $500,000 to $700,000. As you know, COVID has actually stopped every patient to go in from hospitals and clinics. So we're temporarily, I guess, a negative effect of the COVID is that our revenues have slowed down. But we believe that once the COVID virus is under control, well, all these diabetics and all these patients will come back into the hospitals and clinics, and we will continue our revenue. In terms of prospects, I can tell you that the total prospect in terms of dollars that we have in our funnel today is over $20 million Canadian.
Excellent. Why are you targeting governments as opposed to the private sector?
Well, the reason why we are working with the governments is that we actually we have built an economic model that we can actually show governments that they can save enormous amount of money by actually putting these preventive tests in place, and those savings are very, very significant to governments, more into the private. On the private side, clinics are very they're very I would say they're very concerned that their clients do have the same diseases that the governments are monitoring, and we are working with the private sector right now, and we have identified many prospects such as New Look and some other ones in the U.S. that would like to offer this test.
Excellent. What is your lead time to get a customer up and running?
When we get a signed contract, we can get a customer up and running within a week.
Oh, that's very quick. What is the state of the balance sheet?
Like I said, we have $1.7 million of cash in the bank. We have several $1 million in carried forward losses. So the balance sheet today looks extremely well. We have very little debt, so we have less than $275,000 in debt. So that plus the cash plus some of the contracts that will be restarting very soon, we hope, puts our balance sheet in a very good state.
And when do you see yourself being cash flow positive?
Well, before COVID, this was our year to be profitable. We have to wait to see what post-COVID will look like. Right now, it's very difficult to see. One thing that's important to understand is that what we've been doing for the last 7 years was always based on telemedicine, making sure that the specialists that are very rare are accessible through the internet. And in digital healthcare has been slow in adoption worldwide, but we believe that now that COVID is impacting everybody, that this will become a very key market driver going forward.
Here's a great one. Thanking you for the presentation, and asked, who is your competition and what comparative advantages do you have?
That's a good one. So we monitor 4 competitors in the world, 1 in Europe, 2 in the US. Very few of our competitors outside of those people have the regulatory approvals that we have. So that's a very important thing. Second is we actually, when we gathered our data, we didn't do this in a confined way. So we went into the field and did hundreds of thousands of patients in the field to gather the data we have. So today we believe that our data set is much stronger than our competitors. Second thing is we actually classify the diseases for diabetics, for example, in 7 different classifications. So R0 would be you have nothing. R4 means that you're critically ill. And we have 2 other ones for maculopathy, level 1 and 2. So we classify a patient in 7 different types of severity of the disease. We're the only ones right now offering that. And thirdly, the work we have done in the cardiovascular is now going to be a big competitive advantage for us, because we can actually add on new patients that have different disease than diabetes. For example, hypertensive. Our stroke application that we're working on has a lot of future. It looks like it's real. We're actually, when COVID is finished, we have 2 or 3 very large hospitals that will be testing our application with them. So the way it's going to work is a patient comes into the hospital through an ambulance that he had a stroke, and in French, an ACV. So the stroke patient comes in, goes to emergency, he's stabilized. The next day, we will take a picture of the retina. And if our theory and the doctor's specialist theories are right, then we will actually compare the 2 and build the data that we require to go and get our regulatory approvals on. This is not a new thing. It's been around for probably 10 years, but nobody's been able to mechanize the analysis and also comparing with live patients that we will be doing in the next few months.
Excellent. Here's another one. What specialties would use these diagnostic equipment and services? So I know you mentioned a couple of them. But...
Yeah, so our main customers are really hospitals, clinics. Now on the commercial side, we can see that optometry is a very important because of their footprint. For example, New Look, or even our customer in the US, 2020 Now. These are optometrist-driven shops, and because of the number of sales points, it actually gives us a lot of potential in terms of growth. I was telling a shareholder a few weeks ago, why is New Look important, or 2020 Now? It's very simple. If you take 400 sales points across Canada and you do only 2 patients a day, and you get $10 per patient a day, so you have 400 shops giving you $20 a day. So it goes high very quickly. So you end up in the millions of dollars by doing only 2 tests a day. So that, and also coupled with the hospitals that have hundreds of thousands of diabetes to take care of, again, on a transaction basis, if we can be as lower cost possible, then we have a much higher chance of getting that business.
Excellent. They keep coming in, so bear with me.
That's good.
Are you working with a big firm to help you grow faster?
Well, we are looking at doing alliances worldwide. We started with 16 countries. We're now in less countries because we're a small team. When we're looking at strategic alliances as a key factor for us in terms of growth, and you will see some development in this during the year. Novartis has been a long time, how would I say, customer, but they are going through the COVID issues just same as the other ones worldwide. So, but we are looking at strategic partnering worldwide.
I have a question here. What is the status of the SHUM project?
SHUM has been going very, very well. We're now close to 2,000 patients there. Everybody is very, very satisfied. If you talk to the Director General of the SHUM, Dr. Arbenet will tell you, and he has this in all his presentations that he gives out there to other communities, that Diagnos was one of the first real AI company. And what he means by that is that we have a real application that works, and we have all the regulatory approvals to support it. So the Quebec government has been very supportive now, and the Quebec government is looking at increasing the screening projects by doing 1 million patients over the next few years. So I would think that the SHUM and what we've done there was a perfect job.
So it's great that you mentioned AI, because that brings us to another question here. What AI process are you using?
Well, we started with our own different algorithms when we started, but now today we use deep learning. And the reason why we started using deep learning a few years ago is the speed of analysis that we can get out of a deep learning environment is much, much faster. Like I said in the presentation, it used to take us 2 minutes to analyze one eye, and now it takes us 2 seconds. So this speed came from using deep learning. But technically speaking, the algorithms that we have built, we actually build the knowledge with that, and then after that, we use deep learning for the execution.
Excellent. Here's a two-part question. Diabetes, hypertension, heart are all pre-existing conditions that have a significant negative impact on COVID-19 outcome. So your product is timely. What will be the will this be incorporated into your marketing?
Well, yes. Quick question is yes, it will be, but I mean, we have to be careful with this COVID thing. So we can actually look at the damage that the COVID-19 viruses do on a patient. Now that we can see, for example, that there's more stroke patients in the US that are showing up due to this virus, not on the older population, but on the younger population. So this is all being documented right now. So it looks like the virus, it does attack the cardiovascular system. So we are monitoring this very closely with specialists. You know, we are a data science company. We're not doctors. Our chief medical officer is on the internet, and identifying all these things for us. But we will definitely have, and anybody who's in this business will have to incorporate some of the signs that the coronavirus is actually damaging in terms of, I guess, health in anybody. This is not just for diabetes. You know, the virus attacks everybody. Yeah. So, but the diabetic patients and hypertensive patients are more, I would say they're more sensitive to this virus than the other ones.
Excellent. Then we have another one here. Recently, there was news around your AR platform and the White House. I mean, I know you touched on this, Andre, but can you provide any details around whether you can exploit this new relationship to further your US footprint?
Well, I can only tell you that many years ago when we started Diagnos, we were actually doing knowledge extraction on documents. And that's how we really, was our first application. So we built a bunch of algorithms that can actually read the text and extract knowledge from it. And what I mean is not looking for words or stuff like that, but really trying to extract some kind of knowledge from these different texts. So we had not done this for the last 8-9 years. So when this call to action came up, for us, it was a real good challenge technically with our staff, our technical scientists also, to get it out of the box and try it. And it was, you know, it started work right off the bat. So it's too soon to tell you what we're going to do with this. But right now we're using the knowledge that we're extracting from these documents to reinforce the existing application that we have in production today.
Okay, here's a personal one, if you don't mind answering. Has Andre ever tried the technology on himself? What were the results, if so? In other words, did it detect anything which prompted him to change his diet, lifestyle, meds, etc.?
Well, it's funny. I am a hypertensive person, so I take medication for it. So I actually test my eyes every 4 months in the office. And yes, I had to readjust my life a little bit because of the hypertension. So, you know, you have to eat a little bit better, drink less. I do a lot more walking than I did before. And my hypertension is under control. But I'm still monitoring my vision, because last thing I want to do is lose my eyesight.
Excellent. And then for an optometrist to get started, what would be his cost layout, and do you finance it on a payment basis?
Well, the neat thing about optometrists is the cameras that we use, most optometrists in the US and Canada and other countries have this kind of equipment. I'll give you an example. So New Look or LMC or 2020 Now have their own cameras already installed. So we don't have to provide any equipment, and we don't provide any staff because they have the staff to take the pictures. So if an optometrist has a camera, it takes less than 2 or 3 days to get them trained and go. So for us, those kinds of transactions are our highest margin. And we like to work with those groups because they are already familiar with taking pictures of the retina. And as we noticed over the last 12 months, they are very, very good at doing this. And they also, optometrists would like to do a little bit more on the medical side. So this actually helps them also to bridge the gap between the medical and also the optometry. So not expensive. And if we have to provide the equipment, we can actually, we have different packages for optometrists or commercial sites where we can actually sign a 5-year contract, 3-year contract. It will amortize the equipment and actually lease it back to them.
Okay. So another question came up. I'll read it straight out. I thought telemedicine is becoming more prominent with COVID. Why would your sales be impacted by this? Should it not be an advantage? And could these cameras be placed in local drugstores?
Okay, so there's a few things in the question. So yes, so these cameras that are there are not allowed to be installed in drugstores in the province of Quebec and some other provinces due to the ontology code of the different groups. So an eye test is reserved for optometrists, for example, or ophthalmologists. So a pharmacist cannot do that, is not allowed to do that. So they actually went to court, they lost. That's it. So we turn the page on that. In terms of telemedicine, everybody's been talking about telemedicine for a long time, but it's been very difficult to get the doctors and so also the governments to pay and come up with billing codes for doing it. And I think the COVID experience right now is proven that a doctor can talk to their patients on the phone or through Zoom or through any other type of accessibility on the internet and have the same degree of confidence that the treatment they have proposed to their patients works or not work. It's much easier, much faster. There's less cost involved. You don't have to drive around to go see your doctors. There's huge benefits for the governments, for everybody on this. So I believe that this COVID will actually push the telemedicine to be adopted much faster than it is today. And we're there. We've been actually giving out for free our telemedicine platform to our clients to get them to use it. And been very successful.
Well, at least that'll be a positive impact out of all of this.
Absolutely.
So we ran through all the questions. I'm going to hand it over to Paul. Thank you very much, Andre.
Thank you very much to you and to everybody that I don't see.
Merci beaucoup, Andre. Great presentation. We've had a good turnout of people that have logged in to check it out. So again, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for logging in and participating in this webinar today. And
I'd like to say one thing, Paul, just before I go.
Certainly.
So I would tell to everybody, buy yourself a share and save somebody's life.
There you go. Well said. Market is open for trading.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.